What a day to make reflection of the founding father of our nation. And I just again say thank you for the wisdom and the thought to have this occasion here in the University Forum, standing at the back of the Michael Somare Library, a library that many UPNG alumni is very familiar of. And this generation of students, you're also passing through and enjoying the faculty and the facility, rather, of this library and the University Precinct. Thank you again for putting this moment for all of us to come. To the media, thank you again for being here to uplift this solemn moment in which we pass a reflection on the founding father of our nation. As George Washington is to the United States of America, who in April 30, 1789 became the first president of the United States of America, as Mr. Barton is to the Australia, who in 1901 was the first Prime Minister of what was a federated different states of Australia coming together in unison as Australia is today, as big identities to different nations across the face of planet Earth. For instance, Indira Gandhi to India, you have many global leaders who have shaped their nation. For Papua New Guinea, our history is intertwined with this great statesman of our country. In fact, as great as he was in life, he is as great as he was, and in his passing, he remains the greatest son or the greatest child of this nation our nation has ever produced. And we could have reflected in his passing, he united the country one more time in passing. And so today, for each and every one of us to reflect solemnly, I choose to be here at the University of Papua New Guinea. There is similar program happening in the city. In fact, Governor, the Honorable Paus Pakov, is hosting one similar program at Hibet Mare Stadium, the place where we pulled down the Australian flag for the last time in September 15th, 1975. He's hosting a memorial program. But I choose to be here with you at the University of Papua New Guinea. So that you students, and I know this is uplifted to our nation to also hear, but more importantly, you, girl or boy, sitting here today as students of this country, may you take deeper reflection of what Somare was, and correctly titled in this afternoon's program, his vision must be our vision. Because in 1975, Somare and his generation had no luxury of hindsight. At 1975, they had no luxury of many Papua New Guinean-born advisors. At 1975, there weren't too many Papua New Guinean businesswomen and men around. At 1975, our challenges were still very big, as Sepuka did made mention. In the Bougainvilleans, the Bougainvilleans, some of them were thinking independence. In the East New Britain, at the Gazelle Peninsula, the Matugan were talking about not being part of our country. In the Greater Papua, the Papua Besana was very much active. Yet it took strong vision and an enigmatic character to find a common purpose for our country and united what we know today, and as it was in 1975, perhaps the most diverse nation on the face of planet Earth, a nation of over 836 different language groups, all had their own tribal structures, and settings, Somare was the leader of those leaders in the 60s and 70s who united our nation for one common cause, and that was for sovereignty. As a democratic nation, we gained independence in September 16, 1975. So in this sort of occasion, let us take reflection on what those ideals were. And as Sepuka correctly put, if there is one word that we could describe Somare, as we take a reflection on his life, he was able to unite our country. That is why the 1968, 67, 68 Bully Beef Club converged into what is now the Pangu Party, a party that talked about a group of young men and women that gained traction to talk about uniting the divisions we had in our country. Today, 47 years on, irrespective of politics, irrespective of ethnicity, irrespective of linguistic diversities, irrespective of our own worldviews, the ideals of Somare, the visions of Somare must still remain greater part of our national conversation. Unity in diversity is something every son and daughter of our country must forever uphold, now as it was back then, today and forever into the future, because only through unity will we find and harness the combined blessing in the talents and resources we have in our country to make our country truly prosperous, as he saw in 1975, as prosperous as he saw in 2010, or 9 rather, when they gifted the Vision 2050, and as we are seeing today. United in our talents, united in our resolve to make things better for our people, united in putting others first and ourselves last, united in finding the common good of our country is something that Somare stood for all his entire life. And as I come to make conversation with you here in the University of Papua New Guinea, I just want to appeal to each and every one of you. Let us not waste the memory of this great man. Tonight you will hold a candle in remembrance of this great man. And forever in every annual remembrance day in which we celebrate his life, we will forever be holding candles. But our candles will be in vain if we do not give respect, firstly, to the sovereignty of our nation, secondly, to love and cherish others ahead of self, and thirdly, to maintain unity in our diversity. And as today, when we lift our candles to remember this great man, may his ideals and may his vision be part of us. And I come to you to speak to you as a former student of University of Papua New Guinea. This university has produced 5 prime ministers of our country, for better or for worse. For better or for worse, 5 of the 8 prime ministers so far, including myself, have come out from this university. In the early 1990s, when I was here as you are today, I had no clue I'll be the 8th Prime Minister of our country. I was just coming back and forth as you are doing today. By divine plan, my path headed that 30 years down the line, I was given the greatest privilege to become the chief servant of our country. 30 years from now, 20 years from now, 10 years from now, you may not all become the Prime Minister of this country. One of you will be. But Definitely each and every one of you will have a role to play in our country. Whatever it is, I just want us tonight to pause on the characters he stood for. And that is to unite our nation, to serve our nation, putting others first, and to ensure that the interest of this country comes ahead of interest of self. He stood for these ideals. As you journey in your own life into the future, and wherever place in life you are placed in our country as students, these simple but yet powerful attributes of this father of our nation must be part of your life as you yourself try to contribute to the betterment of our nation going forward. This country has every opportunity to be great. As Vision 2050 that he gifted to us stated in the second decade, and I became Prime Minister in the second decade, my conversation on economic empowerment, taking back ownership of our resources to make PNG great, is not far from the vision he outlaid. It's very consistent to the vision he outlaid in Vision 2050. We are the 12th resource-intense nation on the face of planet Earth, yet we struggle to convert liquidity from our own resources. That is why I make no apologies when I sought Pogra to reopen for better terms, when I fight hard to get more from Pinian, when I fight hard to get more from Wafi Golpu, when I fight hard to talk on forestry and fishery sectors. That runs deep and parallel to the vision Somare had for us. In my own experiences with him, if I could reflect, and if you do not mind for the next 2 or 3 minutes, I was privileged to have worked with him, and I sat with him and listened to him. In 2007, when we assembled, I became member for the first time in a camp meeting at Warangoi, East New Britain Province. He charged us, the younger generations of Papua New Guineans, especially leaders, to give economic independence to this nation. It clearly resonates and recollects in my mind. He said, I gave political independence at 1975. You younger generation of Papua New leaders must work to give economic independence to our people. Economic independence means each and every one of us must have ability to decide our own future because we have wealth in us. That's why the Vision 2050 talks about happy, wealthy, fair, safe nation for all of us. And let me, in many of my own personal contacts with him, share with you, 10 days before he died, and it's a personal story, I haven't told many, but MTV would have put out a little snippet of my one-on-one conversation with him 10 days before he passed. He called me into his house at Boroko. I arrived. We sat at the porch. His 4 children were there, Arthur, Sana, Beta, Dulcie, and he broke the news to me that the prognosis on him by doctors looks very bad. And so I asked him, sir, if you do not mind, I can organize doctors for you, or I could uplift you to a care elsewhere. And he politely refused. He refused. And he talked on, and he invited me into his living room, his inner sanctum, where dear Lady Veronica was resting, also recuperating from her stroke. He said, Prime Minister, you will not leave without saying hello to Lady Veronica. And so he opened the door, he took me into his inner sanctum, And he went ahead of me and he took up his place behind Lady Veronica. And we had the last conversation then. I will not tell you everything we said, but Sepuka is correct. He put PNG ahead of Murik Lakes and Isipik. I give it to him. He told me, Prime Minister, don't forget Murik Lakes. Don't forget Murik Lakes in few of the conversations we had. He said, I've given my life to the country and I have not looked at Murik Lakes. Don't forget Murik Lakes. But the lesson I drew from this one, young people, and Papua New Guinea, is simply this. He went, even in the final moments of his life, first thing first, he was loyal to his wife right till the end. He was loyal to his life right till the end. Hello, you get me? Young men in this country, especially, not to the young women, young men, if you want to carry Somare's candle tonight, loyalty to women of this country is very, very important. Respect to the women of this country is very, very important. Love to the women of this country is very, very important. One man to your wife till the end is very, very important. These are the virtues he stood for. Why will he ask me to go into the presence of his wife inside where they stayed by themselves? Arthur witnessed that, and his elder daughter, Betta. He was loyal to his wife till the end. To all the sons of this land, if you want equality, you want prosperity, you want betterment of your country, forget about the big picture, the big talks. Start respecting your sisters and your mothers and your wife, not wives, but wife in your household right now and then. That's it. No big stuff. The Prime Minister will do the big stuff. The ministers will do the big stuff. Everybody else will do the big stuff. You can yap on and let's all do the big stuff. Fundamental basics come first. Respect to each other where it matters most. And he had respect to his wife right till the end. Even at his own passing, where he had already received the prognosis that he had days left in his life, he held up the welfare of his wife in the first instance, and he was at the back of his wife, caring for his wife. Papua New Guineans, that was the man, and I saw it at the very end. Respects start at those closest to you. Give first to them, including your family members, and for those who are married, to your spouse, especially the women folk in our lives. So to the young Papua New Guineans who are here, when you get out and complete your school, or as you march through your schools, start this practice right now in honor of Somare, giving respect to our sisters and daughters and women amongst us, and eventually to your wife. That will start your own personal journey to make our country a better place. And one thing I learned in that final moments I had with him, he put his wife first, and he held the welfare of his own people closest to his heart. Even at the peril of his own life, he was closest to remembering his own people in Murik and the greater Papua New Guinea. So let us come in remembrance. I just want us, University of Papua New Guinea students, all of you walking out from this university, one of you will end up becoming a university. I pray it is a woman student, so that we could produce some female prime ministers down the line. Thank you. or even male students. But as we walk out of this memorial program, Somare served this country with total distinction right till the end. But the service started at his home, and tonight I just want to put this with you. Start serving your country at and with those closest to you. And from there on, the ripple effect of better service to another person will be passed on to the rest of our country. May Somare's memory hold us together, unite us as a nation. In the face of our 11th Parliament, election comes, pass fair judgment. I don't and will not campaign for any one person at this time, but no wonder why we are celebrating Somare's life in the face of our 11th Parliament. Somare and his team never were aggressive, but had respect and decorum as they went about in their ways of doing business. As leaders of our country, we appeal to our citizens as we come face to face with 2022 elections. It is a solemn moment where each and every one of you must exercise your Section 50 rights to cast vote above tribalism, above petty party politics, above material goods, and vote on conscience of good leadership. And in doing so, hopefully the next team of leaders could reflect and do better from where our pioneers and fathers have brought us thus far. I truly believe in the future prospect of our nation. We can do better and do well. But Somare reminds us, even from the grave, remain united and keep a life of service to each other. In doing so, we can truly serve our country better going forward. Thank you, University of Papua New Guinea. I appreciate this kind gesture. I look forward to coming back to the university in one or two more occasions. God bless.